So with Star Wars Hunters finally getting its release date, I've seen a lot of discussion online about how long it's taken and generally just people being kind of surprised that it's not cancelled or even that they forgot it existed after all this time. Overall, people are definitely just sort of curious and even concerned about the game because realistically, why the hell has it taken so long to launch? Coming up on nearly 3 years since it did soft launch in late 2021. Well, today I'm going to be discussing why you should not be concerned about that because in my opinion, it is actually quite the opposite. And so without wasting any time, let's get stuck right into it. Now, I think the reason that most people are a little bit concerned about the game or also just curious is that obviously the game has been delayed 3 times at this point. It was meant to initially launch in 2021 when it soft launched. But since then, it has been delayed 3 years in a row. It got delayed to 2022, then late 2022. It also got delayed again until 2023. And then when it really did seem like it was actually going to launch late last year, they then delayed it again to 2024. Now, most games get delayed because generally speaking, there is something wrong with them or it just needs more time to sort of polish up or whatever the case may be. So usually, a delay means something bad. Even if it can result in a better game, it generally means that it's just not quite ready or something like that. But that is not really the case with Hunters, and I'm going to kind of explain why that is the case. Now, I will say that the first delay back in November 2021 was partially to do with regular reasons for a delay, so more to do with the fact that they wanted to take their time with the balancing and stuff like that, because they did get a lot of feedback that came in from the soft launch. And obviously with a game like this, where it is a smaller scale arena shooter, the balancing really does have to be very good because obviously only one person can pick one specific hunter, and so whoever gets that hunter first, they're just going to dominate every game if that hunter is overpowered. So the first delay was kind of to do with that sort of thing, but it wasn't because the game was broken or it had genuine issues. It was more just to do with the fact that they wanted to take their time with it, which at the time I was completely fine with. I'm actually one of those people that is for a delay. Like if the game needs to be delayed, I'd rather it be delayed. So I was completely fine with that one, and their reasoning was perfectly fine. Now, the second delay was literally nothing to do with the game whatsoever. It was because Take-Two Interactive bought Zynga, and Zynga is the publisher for Star Wars Hunters, and so it was just going to be way too hard to launch a game mid-takeover, and there was also no doubt a full change of like the hierarchy and stuff at the company. Whenever these buyouts happen, a lot of those changes happen in terms of different people get put in different roles, new people come into the company, some people get fired and stuff like that. And so during the midst of that, it is just way too hard to launch a game. It's hard to launch a game at the best of times, let alone when something that big is happening in a company. So yeah, the second delay was quite literally nothing to do with the game at all. Now, in terms of the third delay, and this is obviously more speculation, the last point I made about Take-Two buying Zynga, that is all just factual, but this one is more just speculation. There's a lot of speculation that it is kind of partially to do with that same reason in terms of Take-Two buying Zynga. The fact that apparently a lot of the new higher-ups and just the general hierarchy really liked the potential of Hunters, and they decided to kind of double down on it because they thought it could be kind of the next big thing for Zynga. So they wanted to take the time to get it right. And obviously when you bring in new people to a company, there might be a bunch of new ideas that happen, things they want changed and all that kind of thing. So from what I've heard in terms of little rumors and stuff like that, the third delay was more to do with them actually just doubling down. So the game wasn't in need of like, oh my god, it's broken, we need to fix it. It was more like, damn, this game is actually really good, let's double down and make it even better because this could be the next big thing. And although I know a lot of people are sleeping on this game, I do genuinely think this is going to be an absolutely astronomically big game. I think in years from now, this is going to be one of the biggest, the most played Star Wars games of all time. I genuinely do believe that. Look at a game like Galaxy of Heroes that has over 100 million players. It is still 8 years later getting support. There's still a huge community playing that game. And I've played a lot of Galaxy of Heroes. It's good fun, but it is definitely not even close to the quality level of that Star Wars Hunters is. So I can see what they were talking about there, if that is true, about them kind of doubling down on Hunters, because yeah, I can also see the potential. And as much as I was annoyed that it got delayed for that third time, if they wanted to kind of double down on it, then I think that is actually completely fair, to be honest. Now, this part is actually more my own speculation than anything, so just take this with a grain of salt, but it would also make a lot of sense with all of the Switch 2 rumors that have happened over the last 3 to 6 months, even probably a year now at this point. The game is obviously launching on the Nintendo Switch, and there's a lot of rumors that the Switch 2, or whatever it's going to be called, is launching next year, and that is pretty much been all but confirmed at this point. So I also think a lot of it is potentially to do with the fact that the devs would definitely know that the Switch 2 is being released at some point next year, and they would have potentially been working to get the game compatible with the Switch 2, because that would obviously take extra work. It's a completely new platform, it's got completely new specs and everything. It is different hardware than what they're building the game for, so it would take them extra work. And obviously if they didn't put in that work and the game didn't work on the Switch 2, that would be a huge hit for the game, in that they've released this game for the Nintendo Switch and then a new Switch comes out and the game isn't even playable on that platform. So this hasn't been confirmed anywhere or even really rumored. This is just something I've kind of thought about in the background, that I do think the Switch 2 would have kind of messed with their plans a little bit. And you might be wondering, how would the devs know about the Switch 2? Well, that's generally how it works, because when you look at any game that launches around the launch period of, for example, the PS5, there's games that launch on the PS5 when that first came out that obviously had been worked on for years prior to that, knowing it would be launching on the next gen console, meaning those companies have to work in tandem with the likes of Sony and Microsoft, and obviously in this case Nintendo. And so just because we don't have official confirmation that the Switch 2 is coming out, I can absolutely confirm that most dev companies out there who are working on a Nintendo Switch game, they will have heard from Nintendo themselves and will have everything they need to know about making a game for the next gen console, because obviously Nintendo wants games to launch on that next console, because obviously without any games they're not going to sell any consoles. So I do think that is potentially a part of it as well, which again makes sense. It's kind of annoying, but it makes complete sense. I would rather the game work on the next iteration of the Switch, and so that is definitely something to think about as well. Now, I think the reason why you guys shouldn't be concerned about how long it's taken, not only just from what I've said, that the delays weren't really to do with the game needing a bunch of work and stuff like that, is that it still has had all of that extra work. So whether it needed it or not, there has been an extra 2.5 years of work that they've really not maybe needed for this game, but it has still gotten it. And so yes, that is kind of annoying in the sense that we did kind of miss out on the time we could have been playing, but it only means that the game is literally 2.5 years better than it was when it soft launched. Now, for context, that is a longer live service so far than Battlefront 2 ever had. Now, keep in mind that is less content. Obviously, Battlefront had monthly updates, but there's only been probably 7 or 8 updates for Hunters, because they're kind of in bigger chunks rather than like a monthly update. But even still, the game has been supported longer than Battlefront 2, and it isn't even out yet. So that's a bit of context as to how long or how much improvement has actually been made. It's also worth noting that Hunters soft launched the same week that Battlefield 2042 launched. That game has now had a crazy turnaround, because obviously it launched very poorly, but it is actually in a really good state now, and then the live service has now ended. So that is 2 examples of how much time and how much work they've put into Star Wars Hunters. The fact there are entire games that have essentially come and gone by the time this game is ready for launch, that is proof that that amount of work has been put into this game. And even though, again, it is kind of annoying we missed all that time we could have been playing, it only means the game is going to be better when we can actually play it. If you look at Battlefront 2 and Battlefield 2042 and how drastically they improved since launch, that's kind of a good indicator of how much time they've had to not only improve Hunters, but they've also been able to get ahead on the post-launch content, meaning that the cadence for new content once the game is out should be really quick. We should most likely be getting new maps and new Hunters and all that kind of thing pretty regularly. The season length when it comes to the soft launch so far, they're pretty short, which means we're going to have like sort of short and sharp seasons and short and sharp battle passes. So there's just going to be a lot of content, and hopefully it is coming out really quickly. And yeah, from everything that I've heard, they're already well ahead on post-launch content, which I think is a good thing, because that means they can kind of pump that out and they can already now be working on content beyond that too, which is obviously very good for the long lifespan of the game. So that is why I think you guys shouldn't be concerned about Star Wars Hunters. If anything, I honestly think you should be feeling the opposite. Yes, it is annoying that we had so much time where we could have been playing and we haven't been able to, but it only means the game is going to launch objectively better. And I genuinely thought it was ready for launch in November 2021. I remember actually saying it to a few friends who were playing it at the time, that damn, this game feels really good. It feels better than I thought it would. It felt pretty damn balanced. It felt just nice and smooth. But now playing it 2.5 years later and just seeing the progress it's made in that time, it definitely feels even better than it did. They've completely reworked a lot of elements that now just play so much better. The gunplay in general is just so much cleaner than it was, and it was already in a good spot. No doubt they've gotten so much balancing out of the way that could have caused them headaches early on, but it won't do that now. So like I said, I think you guys should be feeling the opposite of concerned. It should be something we're sort of optimistic about. That, yeah, it does feel like missed time, but it only means the game is going to be better. And I cannot wait for you guys to finally get your hands on the game to experience just how fun this game actually is. But that is going to do it for this one. There is so much more content on the way, so if you guys are new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on any upcoming Star Wars Hunters content. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the Force be with you always.